A Naturalistic Observation by Anthony Reda. The observation occurred in the state of Washington at a public elementary school. The district is reported to be the eighth largest district in the state and serves a population of approximately 122,806 residents. At this elementary school, the current number of enrolled students is 975. The student-to-teacher ratio is 24:1, and teachers earn an average salary of $69,490 per year. The duration of the observation began at 11:30 a.m. and concluded at 1 p.m. One individual student was the focus of the observation. He is a Caucasian male, 11 years old, and in the fifth grade. The classroom consisted of 10 males and 12 females. Seating appeared to be randomized with regards to the sex of the students, but designated seating was evident. The individual student was dressed similar to his male peers, wearing a hooded sweatshirt, t-shirt, jeans, socks, and shoes. The student appeared to be of average height and weight compared to his peers. Normal reflexes and balance were evident as he physically navigated in the classroom, hallways, and cafeteria. Summarized by Cale Kavanaugh, 2019, children's physical growth will vary. However, both height and weight increase steadily during the elementary school years. Children need a well-balanced diet to support energy levels. Once girls enter puberty, they grow rapidly and become much bigger than boys their age. Thus, between the ages of 11 and 12, the average girl is about half an inch taller than the average boy. This information was consistent in regards to the observed students in this class. According to Cale and Kavanaugh, 2019, as children try to comprehend their world, Jean Piaget believed that they act like scientists, creating theories about the physical and social worlds. Children try to weave all that they know about objects and people into a complete theory, which is tested daily by experience, because their theories lead children to expect certain things to happen. With regards to determining whether concrete or formal thinking is occurring in real time can be challenging. However, understanding the general premises of developmental ages and corresponding stages, I believe I was able to observe both examples of concrete and formal aspects in the stages of development with my selected student. Noted by Dirk and Schmidick, 2015, there is variability in children's cognitive performance. Whether day to day, occasion to occasion, or moment to moment, it is difficult to measure just how much memory, or specifically when a child is accessing their memory, at a precise moment in the various stages of cognitive development within the context of school. In general, the observed student displayed typical cognitive development for his grade level. He was able to communicate with normal speech, evidenced by raising his hand and answering a question. He paid attention to the teacher's instructions and was able to follow through on his assigned tasks. The student presented with the necessary physical developmental motor skills by holding a pencil, tracing an outline of an object, and then cutting with scissors during a school-wide initiative to support kindness within the school and out in the community. A good example of concrete thinking was he was able to compare the shape of his traced object to that of other students and noted that his was larger in size. Another example of cognitive development was when he was prompted to line up for lunch. He complied and physically transitioned from the classroom, down the hall, and into the cafeteria. These cognitive observations indicate that the student has an awareness and responds appropriately and logical operation to his experiences of being a student, participating in an arts and craft project, thinking for himself, and functioning appropriately with the other students and teacher. Psychosocial or social emotional development. This is a child's ability to relate to both adults and other children. Can they have a conversation with people of various ages? Do they cope well when things don't go their way? Two specific events stood out with my observed student as it related to psychosocial development. During the arts and crafts activity, I noticed that the student became a little frustrated at the very beginning. Just before the activity, I observed him talking with his neighbor. The conversation was not disruptive, but the timing of him visiting was just prior to his teacher's instruction. As she began to explain the upcoming assignment, he continued talking, and quickly she prompted him to stop and listen. Whether he missed part of the instructions or was responding to what the other student said, his demeanor shifted ever so slightly. With the activity beginning, noise levels quickly increased, and as the teacher's volume, tone, and body language changed, the student became a little anxious. Shifting in his seat, leaning both forward and back, he was trying to see and hear what she was saying. He began talking more to his fellow student, trying to clarify what to do, and I could see him quickly processing and adjusting in efforts to not get further behind. Finally, the student put his hand up and asked a clarifying question to the teacher. The act of raising his hand and asking a question to gain information was a great display of psychosocial development in real time and demonstrated more of a formal cognitive state than concrete. Be it that he has learned from past experience, as Piaget research supports, that if he did not get all of the instructions, his project would not turn out as desired. Although thoughts about psychosocial development is whether children are able to understand the emotions of others and make appropriate decisions, I believe my observed student did well to make appropriate decisions as one student cut in front of him while in line in the cafeteria. He verbally said, "Excuse me, I was in line first." Concrete thinking. The offending student quickly sized up the situation, apologized, and stepped back out of line. Also concrete thinking. My student then stated, "That's okay," beginning stages of formal thinking. This quick, decisive, psychosocial response implies that he has learned to advocate for himself and he understood that the offending student may have simply made a mistake by cutting in front of him. I perceive the situation as him having the ability to understand his emotions, know that it is not acceptable to cut in line, along with the other student, and both made good choices given the circumstance. Perhaps the school's Be Kind initiative is working well. I also observed that my student was social and partnered primarily with 1 to 2 close friends. He demonstrated an awareness of others, but really only engaged with a total of 2 or 3 students the entire time I was there. I noticed that he maintained a relatively close physical space with only male students. He did not speak to any female students. He smiled, laughed, and engaged appropriately with his peers. With regards to the student's interaction with his teacher, he seemed eager to follow prompting and instructions. He understood the hierarchy of class, and when lost in direction, he raised his hand and clarified what he was expected to do. This indicates he has developed some form of trust with the teacher and is comfortable within the school setting. He complied when he was instructed to line up for lunchtime, and he transitioned well with little prompting or correction from his teacher. Some of the social and cultural aspects to the school observation was that my observation was a brief snapshot of about 90 minutes. I had no prior knowledge of the youth's family dynamics, cultural practices, parenting styles, learning disabilities, or trauma experienced during his prior developmental stages. The school is in a mid to upper class residential area. The school was diverse with regards to race, however predominantly Caucasian. The school parking lot was well maintained, the flower beds were clean and shrubs manicured. This is not always true for schools in the state of Washington, but for the most part, there was a general sense that the school has enough funding and resources were bountiful. All students had supplies such as utensils, paper, scissors, and adequate space in the classroom during the activity. There was little to no trash or debris located anywhere on the campus. Computers, phones, intercom systems all worked perfectly. As noted by Kale and Kavanaugh, 2019, some of the challenges related to cognitive development can be social factors such as poverty and impaired parent-child interactions. Behavioral factors such as child neglect and domestic violence can greatly impact a child's development. Equally, cultural factors can play into children's abilities to learn and grow. One of the challenges that was observed was that much of the instruction and direction given by the teacher was not necessarily individualized. With a student to teacher ratio of 24:1, some students wandered off in the task during the activity. Some students were confused and did not raise their hand to ask clarifying questions. The teacher did a good job trying to walk around and observe everyone, but there was a limited amount of time given for the specific activity, and not all students finished the task. I only observed one negative incident of behavioral development, which was the child who cut in line at lunch. This is not to say that he was hungrier or neglected compared to the student I observed. However, he definitely tested a social boundary with my observed student. Most schools have protocols in place for disruptive students. Christner Freeman Minute, 2012, note, given the critical role of schools and school staff in the cognitive, behavioral, emotional, social, and interpersonal development of children and adolescents, it is only fitting that school-based clinicians and school systems begin considering the implementation of CBT intervention services to help children and adolescents in need. Their developed handbook has some wonderful strategies used by schools all across the United States. Overall, I had a wonderful time completing my observation. It was fascinating to see different aspects to cognitive development. I forgot how much energy and excitement there is in an elementary school. I reflected to my personal experiences in fifth grade and tried to recall how I thought about school, life, and how God has always been a part of my life, regardless if I acknowledged Him then as I do now. To observe our future generation was enlightening, and to see how much effort the teachers and administration has put into creating the very best possible environment to support learning and cognitive development was reassuring. I thought the kindness theme was very well thought out, and it appeared to work in the scenario I observed. While this is a public school, I reflected on Psalm 22, verses 30 and 31, which states, "Our children will also serve Him. Future generations will hear about the wonders of the Lord. His righteous acts will be told to those not yet born."